some people would say, what I do. Currently watching the Kansas City Chiefs and the Baltimore Ravens and Xavier Wolf? Whatever his name is. I don't know. It's fucking Xavier Worthy. Is him. He literally just scored a touchdown. So, shouts out to that. Hot Pass Podcast, Friday morning betting show. I'm him. I'm Eric, Hot Pass Podcast, the creator. All right. So we have an announcement for the NASCAR betting preview show. I'm going to be coming out with Xfinity stuff, but we'll get into that in a second. All right. So Hot Pass Podcast on the YouTube. Shouts out. Go like, share, subscribe to the podcast on Hot Pass Podcast on YouTube. Way to go. This is a mumble jumble mess at the very beginning. Hot Pass Podcast on Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your audio podcasts. Then go to @FurlongEric_ on social media, whether it's X, Instagram, TikTok, wherever. Go follow me there. Full trucks and Xfinity betting cards are available here on the Hot Pass Podcast Friday morning betting show. And about 30 minutes prior to those races, I post the full final betting card on X and Instagram @FurlongEric_. So don't forget it. All right. And then Action Network, link is in the bio wherever you find me, whether it is X, Instagram, or TikTok, or the Hot Pass Podcast on YouTube. You can go check the Action Network, whether it's football bets. Currently, right now, we've got, at the time of the recording this, we'll find, you guys will already know, we've got the Kansas City Chiefs -2.5. We get Kansas City Chiefs over 10.5 points in the first half. We've got, Zay Flowers over a certain amount of yards, so on and so forth. But if you want to check those plays out, whether it's NFL, NASCAR Cup Series is where I can post those as well. We're almost at 100 units overall for the Cup Series, and we're 112 units positive across all sports. So go to the Action Network. All right. Announcement. NASCAR betting preview show. I'm going to still have my Xfinity Cup and trucks, and the Hot Pass Podcast is not slack, and we're going to still do this, pump it out all at the same time. But for the next 10 weeks, I'm going to be partnering with the NASCAR betting preview show. Shouts out to Derek J. Yoder for giving me the opportunity to be able to get my platform out and get a little bit more viewership for the Hot Pass Podcast. But yeah, for the next 10 weeks, all the way up to championship weekend, we are going to be doing a Xfinity show every single week there. Whenever odds come out, usually I'm going to assume I'm going to record it all the same night on the Thursday night. Less odds. Odds were out super late this week for Xfinity. Usually they come out Tuesday night. So I would try and get it out like Wednesday or Thursday. But for the next 10 weeks, I'm going to be swamped with material. I think it's just audio. So we're, go to the at NASCAR betting preview show on Twitter /X and give them a follow there, and then go over to the NASCAR betting preview show on Spotify, Apple, wherever you get your podcasts, and listen to the full Xfinity breakdown. This week, I'm going to end up going over there and touching on basically everything I've touched on here. So don't get it twisted. Hot Pass Podcast. I'm going to give you guys a little bit extra picks here. And I'll give a couple there every week in my analysis and my emotions and everything going on with the Xfinity. But I want to make sure that everybody still comes here and still listens to this, right? So we'll give them a couple picks, but then they have to hear the full breakdown on here. It only seems fair, right? It only seems fair that my loyal listeners to the Hot Pass Podcast stay here, but also slightly go over there and check that out, because it's not all going to be the same. This is that'll be full on just Xfinity, breaking down everything going on in Xfinity. Here we touch on everything, whether it's fucking Donald Trump getting shot in the ear, Kansas City Chiefs fucking possibly going for a three-peat, any sort of bets, NASCAR Cup Series, Truck Series. You know how I love my Truck Series. It ain't going away. Hot Pass Podcast. So let's dive into the Friday morning betting show. We always start off with Xfinity picks, then we end up with the Cup, and then qualifying bets and so on and so forth. So let's dive right into Xfinity. I gave out earlier on this week 25-1 Sheldon Creed to win the championship this year. I mean, I feel like that just makes sense, right? But the first bet, we always start off with matchups. This is a race. Well, let's just talk about this for a second. The Atlanta Motor Speedway with this super speedway package, or whatever they're driving for. Yeah, is it the super speedway package they're driving? I don't know. Whatever it is. I was in Atlanta for this race. It was an absolute snooze fest. It was single file. Nothing was going on. It was boring as hell. I was falling asleep, and I wasn't even hammered, and I was falling asleep. And usually NASCAR races halfway through can kind of get, a little dry. Definitely on these drafting tracks because there's not a lot of moves happening. But this race was terrible. It was single file, and a late race caution came out. It was literally going to be Jesse Love leading every single fucking lap. And it was, and a late race caution came out. We were all wondering if everybody was going to make it on fuel. And I'm basing my thoughts off of that race, where everybody was running, being consistent. Yeah, it was only the second race of the year. So there's going to be a couple other guys that really weren't in the mix that I'm going to talk about now that have kind of found a lot of speed recently. And then I'm also looking at the race in Michigan since they ran the same package. And I'm looking at Indy races different. Obviously, they don't have the high banks, but who was fast there, right? Because they were all racing the same package. So let's dive right in. I'm going to start off with a couple of top fives. The matchups, I'm not sure. There was one I was looking at was Justin Allgaier over AJ Allmendinger at minus 115. I'm not sure if I really want to pay the juice. That's readily available pretty much everywhere. I'm going to wait on matchups and see if we can find something in qualifying where somebody slips up in qualifying. Maybe we get a little plus money somewhere on somebody. But Justin Allgaier, you can trust him right now. He obviously just won the race in Michigan with Sheldon Creed right behind him. We're going to talk about Sheldon Creed in a little bit. But Justin Allgaier has been on a consistent path of it just seems like Gator figures it out later on in the year. He always seems to have a bit of a hard stretch, but these Kaulig cars, if you have a head-to-head against AJ Allmendinger every single time, I will be taking Justin Allgaier. Because even at Darlington last week, you cannot trust whatever the hell's going on in the Kaulig cars right now. I don't expect AJ Allmendinger to do remotely anything in the Cup Series as well next year, and anybody that steps in the Kaulig cars. We already saw that Daniel Dye's going there. I think earlier on in the week, we also had Christian Eckes announced that he's going there. I don't know if I don't think I touched on that. So shouts out to Christian Eckes, but I expect a lot of growing pains going on with Kaulig right now, including next year. I don't expect much. So we're going to talk about Brandon Jones in a minute, going over to Joe Gibbs Racing, because we're going to talk about some Joe Gibbs cars. But I just don't expect anything from Kaulig. They cannot put a whole full race together, and Justin Allgaier can. But at the same time, the reason why I don't want to touch the minus 115, all that juice, is because of the history that Junior Motorsports has at super speedways, where they all just seem to find each other. We just saw that Michigan is not a super speedway, but we saw Sam Mayer and Brandon Jones all get collected together. So we saw that happen. We've seen it at Talladega. We've seen it at Daytona. Yeah, not necessarily that this is a super speedway because of how it races. I would call it a fucking choo-choo train. I think that this is going to be one of those races. So that's what I'm kind of looking at. See if somebody messes up in qualifying. We'll take a look at matchups. But some of the main picks I'm looking at and the long shots I'm going to give you guys here. The NASCAR betting preview show is going to have to go and come over here to listen to this. But Anthony Alfredo is one of my favorite picks this weekend in Atlanta. He didn't run very well. I just watched the Atlanta race from the spring. He didn't really run very well. I think he ended up coming down for fuel, though. At some point, he was going to be short on fuel with whatever their pit strategy was, but Anthony Alfredo was showing speed. He just top 5 at Michigan. And I don't even know what his number was. I was down in Michigan, so I would have no idea. I wasn't really looking at him, but man, he just had a great run at Daytona. He just had a great run at Michigan. He was really fast as well. I know he didn't end up. I think he ended up getting back. He ended up running a tire down. Parker Retzlaff ran into him, or vice versa at the Indianapolis. But he was running half decent. Like, he's had a lot of speed, and where Anthony Alfredo usually shows up in this random number 5 card. Like, this number 5 card is not great. But for a top 5, okay, guys, Anthony Alfredo at plus 550 on Bet365, usually where I get a lot of my numbers. You guys already know that. Is a great number for a guy that I could see just driving around inside the top 10, being fast enough to hang inside the top 10. And if a late race caution comes out of it, I think he ended up finishing top 6. He was right there. I mean, even a guy like SVG is like 12-1 for a top 5, and he finished 3rd here last year. There was a lot of chaos, a lot to break down in that race with all the fuel strategy, but he did it. So these guys like Anthony Alfredo and SVG kind of just hangs around. I think Anthony Alfredo can do it. So we bet a little sprinkle on there. One of the guys, and he's getting in the 19 this weekend, and I'm very high on him. By the sounds of it, he's going to be going to Joe Gibbs Racing. We'll see in the Xfinity Series. But anytime Taylor Gray, okay, Taylor Gray, top 5, plus 360 on Bet365. Every time Taylor Gray gets into the Toyota car, the Joe Gibbs cars, he's got a lot of talent. I wouldn't take him on any short tracks, but anytime we go to like 1.5 miles, super speedways, and he's in a car like this, I'm going to take Taylor Gray. The books still give us a lot of value on a Joe Gibbs car, thinking that Taylor Gray ain't shit. And at plus 360, I think is a beautiful line for a Joe Gibbs car, where I really think this is a very easy race. We had a rookie Jesse Love lead 99.9% of the laps, other than the last 2 that really counted, right? And ended up getting Austin Hill another fucking win. Fuck Austin Hill. We know this. Taylor Gray has these, it is, if a rookie can drive around in a goddamn circle and nobody can fucking pass, Taylor Gray can be up there, and with a speedy Joe Gibbs cars. And we saw, if you're going to count this as a super speedway race, we already know what's about to happen, right? The super speedways for Joe Gibbs have been terrible, but recently, in recent times, have driven very well. You've also had a guy like Sheldon Creed that has probably helped with their program, where he's really good at super speedways, come over there and change the game. We just saw Ryan Truex win at Daytona. I can't see Taylor Gray having issues driving, just being able to hold it straight and be able to turn the wheel left just a hair, to be able to follow the same guys and go in the choo-choo train. These Joe Gibbs cars are always fast. So top 5 at plus 360, I'll fucking take it. Bet 365. As well as Riley Herbst, plus 260. Are you fucking high? This is my play of the weekend. Okay? This guy was running second. He was running inside the top 5 all day in Atlanta, right? He was running second, right behind Jesse Love. Caution comes out. He ends up running out of fucking fuel. But plus 260 on Bet 365 for a top 5 for Riley Herbst. Wherever you can get it, whatever. If it's plus 200, I would take it and I would hammer it. This is your lock of the weekend. Riley Herbst, can you trust him all the time? No. Can this lose? Yes. But Riley Herbst on super speedways, if you want to call this a super speed, and hey man, I understand what he did to he clipped off the nose of Ryan Sieg and took out Brandon Jones or whatever the fuck at Michigan. Stupid mistake, right? And this is the thing with Riley Herbst, and I love Riley Herbst. He's made me a lot of money at Indy in the super speedway package. Don't fucking forget it. He can make stupid mistakes, but with value like this on the track style that is best, and he just won an Indy in that, I'm always drawing blanks all the time. We're talking too much, right? But Riley Herbst in that super speedway package just won and had speed at Michigan. Obviously ends up crashing out. But like anytime he goes to Daytona, Talladega, he's up there. And there's a lot more of like, hey, raw speed recently has been able to get it done. And definitely in a race like this where we're riding in the choo-choo train, which I expected to do the exact same thing, Riley Herbst and the Stewart Haas cars have just raw speed. And just the value at plus 260 is crazy. I mean, I was looking at Cole Cussers. I was looking at Justin Allgaier. Some of these guys are all plus money. One guy I'm going to tell you right now, and I'm going to give it out on the NASCAR betting preview show as well. Good Lord, I'm having a stroke. Is I'm going to just stay away from Chandler Smith. I can't trust this guy until we're at short tracks. And even then, I don't know what's going on in his Lord Jesus save us brain that he has going on. But he needs to be going to church twice a week to be able to figure out what's going on with Chandler Smith. You cannot trust that man. So don't look at that. See like a plus 150 or plus 170, whatever it is for a Chandler Smith top 5. Avoid that like the goddamn plague. Anything with Austin Hill at plus 300, Jesse Love plus 500, plus 600 to win the race, stay away. We're going to talk about that more in the NASCAR betting preview show. I'm going to hold off on the top 3 picking to give that over in the NASCAR betting preview show, and we're going to jump, and so you guys go listen to there. But we're going to give you all 3 of my outright picks here. Okay? Simple. Sheldon Creed, plus 1,200 on Caesar Sportsbook. It's going to happen at some point. He finished second at Michigan. He ended up getting a top 5 at Indy. I'm pretty sure in the Super Speedway package. Sheldon Creed, fantastic driver. Super Speedway package, Indy. Okay? Top 5. Then you go over to Michigan, second place. Okay. Go back to the spring race in Atlanta. They even had car issues in the number 18 car. The very beginning of the year for Sheldon Creed, it was absolutely terrible. He couldn't even get out. Coda's not, it's a road course or whatever, right? But it's comparable in the fact that all at the beginning of the year, the first handful of races, they couldn't even get a full race in without having issues. Now, Sheldon Creed has found the speed. Even at Atlanta in the spring race, he ends up finishing 4th out of all the chaos that they had going on with that car. Had the right fuel strategy, ends up finishing 4th. Sheldon Creed, 12-1. It's going to happen at some point. They found speed. He's in a Joe Gibbs car. God, I mean, I feel bad at Darlington, but I ended up winning money anyway, so if I could shout out Christopher Bell, see ya. But he's right there. He's been knocking on the door for 11 races. We know it, but he's in top tier equipment, and people are talking shit about him again. And hey, I talk shit about him too. Okay, I understand it. I've been there. We're hopping back on the train, 12-1 for a value on a guy that just does really well in super speedways. Boom. Riley Herbst, 18-1. Bet Rivers. Are you fucking crazy? He should be like a 13-1, a 15-1. Where, I mean, you can find him at 14-1 in some books. Do not take that line. I would take Riley Herbst on Bet Rivers, 18-1. That is value for a guy that was riding second all goddamn day behind an RCR car, where RCR is really, really good here. I avoid that like the plague. Sam Mayer, 18-1. This man has to turn it around at some point. I've even seen plus 260, plus 240, I think, out there on Bet365 for a top 5. I'm thinking about taking it. He hasn't always been qualifying the best recently, so I'm gonna wait and take a look. If we're still getting plus 200 after, and I'm gonna take a look at his top 3 numbers. Even top 3, he's been scaring me a little bit. It's just the only reason I didn't take him at a top 5. I'll dive into it more on the NASCAR betting preview show. Is Sam Mayer has just been untrustworthy recently. I understand everybody was talking shit. I even put a video out on my Instagram. I'm going to post it on my TikTok and Twitter /X tomorrow. So I guess Friday for you guys. So like Thursday right now for me. But I'll post that on there as well, talking about I was defending Sam Mayer. And Sam Mayer is not dog shit. But just right now, I'll bet him on the outright. That's it. Earlier on in the year, if we had a plus 240 for a Sam Mayer top 5, it would be an auto bet. But right now, just a little bit of inconsistencies. He was riding around inside the top 10 here all spring race. And then obviously fuel hurt the guy, as well as another junior motorsports car that I'll talk about in the NASCAR betting preview show that I have my eye on. But we're going to also talk about, so that's the betting card. Okay. We'll talk about that in a second, but Anthony Alfredo, plus 550, Bet365 for a top 5. Taylor Gray on Bet365, plus 360. Riley Herbst plus 260 for a top 5 on Bet365 as well. We hold off on the top 3, so go check out the NASCAR betting preview show on Spotify, Apple, wherever you get your podcasts. And then the outrights, Sheldon Creed 12-1, Caesars, Riley Herbst 18-1, as well as Sam Mayer 18-1, both on Bet Rivers. Let's go. Also, Brandon Jones, Joe Gibbs Racing. That man's going to get a win next year. I expect nothing less. Or his Xfinity career might be over. I know he's got a lot of money coming in with the Menards. A lot of I don't know if it's family money or what's going on, but going back to Joe Gibbs, everybody, you know what? I'm going to save this for the NASCAR betting preview show. How about that? Sorry, guys. I have to save something because I know I dive too deep into this stuff. I have to save stuff for over there. We've got to at least try and make it like 20, 30 minutes long. Okay? And, you know, I can, like, just keep going and going and going. So, all right. What's going on in this fucking football game? Is it the second half or second quarter? Yep. Oh, and they're in the red zone. Let's see. We need a touchdown by Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs to cash us the over 10.5 points in the first half. Let's just check here and see. Oh, incomplete right on the fucking goal line at 3rd and 9. Oh, you son of a bitch. God damn it, Patrick. Well, hey, they're going to get 3 points out of this as long as their kicker, that's very Christian. You know, amen. Go in peace to serve the Lord. How do you not hold on to that, you bum? Anyways, yeah, he dropped it on the goal line here to be able to get a first down. What a bum. Anyways, let's pull up... Also, do you guys ever, while I'm pulling this up, do you guys ever go on Amazon, not a sponsor, but do you guys watch Clarkson's Farm? I love that show. I've been watching it for a couple of years now. They're on season 3, and God, what a show. I mean, it's all about farming and stuff, but I'm telling you, he makes it fucking hilarious. Everybody's seen, was it Top Speed or whatever the fuck it is? And it Jeremy Clarkson from that show owns a farm. I mean, he starts farming at the worst time. It's during COVID and shit. He buys a Lamborghini fucking tractor. It's all in German and shit because he bought it from Germany. And he can't figure out how to even lift the hoist in the back to be able to hook up any of the fucking, like the buckets and shit and any of the trailers. It's fucking hilarious. So Clarkson's Farm. I love that show. It is so goddamn funny. So let's dive into what's Zay Flowers got here. Just double checking his yardage here. It doesn't show. What's he got? Matt doesn't show while I have it up here. Anyways, we got some betting picks over there, so save changes. Okay, let's go to the Cup Series. We do not have much right now, guys. I want to see qualifying. Oh, right. They don't even have practice this weekend either because it's a super speedway. Now, just remember, Atlanta is a super speedway. I was there for that 3-wide finish. God bless, what a finish. I mean, and the sun setting behind the track. Atlanta has to be one of the most exciting tracks. When Dale Jr. talked about on his podcast like last year, saying that this is one of the tracks that if you want to bring somebody for their first race, that's the track to go to. Hell yeah. And with a lot of the fuel saving going on or whatever, I like a lot of the 3-wide, and this track is tight as hell to be doing 3-wide racing. It's a hell of a lot of fun. But we're going to talk about some drivers that just kind of hang out inside the top 10 and get it done. Now remember, matchups. I would take any sort of plus money matchups. You're not paying any of the juice. I usually stay away from any sort of matchups. But there are some out there on Bet365, Caesars, whatever, at plus money. If you guys want to, only take the plus money side. But also look up who's really good at super speedways. Right now we have a lot of, let me see if I can pull up Bet365 just to show who is, who's got the top odds. I usually use Bet365 because usually have the best odds, but I do have to say, recently, FanDuel for outrights has absolutely murdered it, dude. They've done a great job. I'm going to talk about a driver that was 31-1 earlier on in the week. So the outrights Right now, we've got the favorite of it's Ryan Blaney, Kyle Larson being 10-1. You're high as fuck. And I talked to Ryan from Win the Race on the NASCAR betting preview show. I was in the comments there and on the live stream. He's saying, I just feel something about Larson. I was talking about Zane Smith plus 1,000 on Bet365 for just a top 10. And he's harping on me, right? I didn't look him dead in the eyes because I wasn't on the show. But if I could, he could feel me looking into his goddamn soul. I'm looking at him into his goddamn soul, right? Looking into him, saying, hey, man, he's talking about Kyle fucking Larson that has gotten one top 10 in Gen 7 races on super speedways, right? Am I right? Am I wrong? And I think that was at Talladega. And I was there. If I can remember, I think that might have been it. Maybe I'm wrong. Go fact check me, whatever. Okay, he's got one, but how many times has he driven on the thing? And he's trying to tell me that Zane Smith has no super speedway finishes inside the top 10. And I went, yeah, because he just started in the Cup Series this year, Ryan. How dare you disrespect Zane Smith? He's losing his ride. Plus 1,000 is value, okay? And I understand. In Atlanta, earlier on this year, he immediately crashed out. Or at least was limping around the track. I specifically remember seeing that 71 car not doing anything good for anybody. But what a spoiler to my first pick is Zane Smith plus 1,000. There's not much to talk about it, but Zane Smith plus 1,000 for a top 10 on Bet365. Shouts out Zane Smith. Don't like the guy. Looks like a face that I really want to punch. If you see him, maybe. But supposedly he's a nice guy. So, but, whatever. I look at him and go, I could just squeeze your face and just fucking rip it off your body. But anyways, let's go back to the outrights. Who's favorites? I'm all over the place. Okay. Kyle Larson plus 1,000. I'm sure there's better numbers on Kyle Larson out there, but plus 1,000 can suck my dick. Are you high? If anything, you're taking his teammate, William Byron, that's been pretty damn good on super speedways. We obviously saw the Daytona 500. He won here last year in this fall race. I guess it was more in the summer now that it's in the playoffs, but he's plus 1,200. I've seen plus 1,400 out there for William Byron. I don't hate that. We got Daniel Suarez, who just randomly kind of shows up here and drives really well, and obviously won here in the spring race. Austin Cindric is a guy I have not bet yet, but I did see him at 22-1 on Caesar Sportsbook. And this is his opportunity to be able to run really well. I've watched a lot of the races back over the last couple of Atlanta Super Speedway. Okay, that's what we call it. Atlanta Super Speedway package or races, sorry. And Austin Cindric just kind of hangs out inside the top 10 the whole time. Now, one thing I got to talk about with Austin Cindric, we talked about it after the Daytona race. Go back and listen to the episode. That man was loosier than goosey after Riley Reid taking so many counts in a gangbang. Okay, he was loosey-goosey on the Daytona track. No, I'm not going to say I watched the gangbang. All right, wait a minute. I'm assuming this is why this is not necessarily meant for kids. This is why it's have to be legal age to be able to bet. So, if your kids are in the car, my bad. I'm not going to say I watched this gangbang, but I'm just going to say that I'm sure Riley Reid has been in a couple. All right. And she is loosey-goosey after all that in multiple different places. And that's Austin Cindric on the Daytona race in the summer race. He's out front, and he's loosey-goosey pushing everybody and crashing everybody. Okay? Loosey-goosey. And they better tighten that fucking thing up. That's the only thing that's scaring me is Austin Cindric does not know how to push, and he's going to cause some shit. Now, at the same time, if he causes the shit and can slide by, we're good. But if you can find him at 22-1 for outright, I'd take that. Even at 20-1 is just a nice little fun sprinkle. And now this is the thing we talked about at Daytona. We'll talk about it again. Is this is just a sprinkle fun race. After Daytona, after having Carson Hocevar finish 11th rather than 10th, what we needed, and Jordan Anderson in the Xfinity Series finishing 6th rather than the 5th that we needed, we're going ever so light on the sprinkles this weekend. I'm going to talk about the top 10s. I'm going to talk about the outrights. And it's just fun little sprinkles. Whatever happens, happens. If one of them hit, we make our money back. Boom. If we hit an outright, congratulations, fantastic. I just want to sit and enjoy this race. I'm like with Chris Wormy, where I'm kind of over betting on super speedway races. It's just fun to like sprinkle a little bit, and then that's it. I used to bet really heavy early on, and just absolutely cry when every single bet would get destroyed. But that was like 2-3 years ago. You learn your lessons real quick on super speedways. Save your money for another race. But that's why the Xfinity Series is so much fun with this choo-choo train, because there's a lot of value out there. Where this, it's like you're shooting your shit off to the wind. Oh, I guess, sorry, guys. Ryan Blaney, Kyle Busch, Joey Logano, Kyle Larson are all 10-1, so plus 1,000. Brad Keselowski, Chase Elliott, William Byron are all 12-1 on Bet365. Michael McDowell is 14-1. Denny Hamlin, Daniel Suarez, Chris Buescher are all 16-1. And one guy, now I'm going to say this. I've said this multiple times, and I've noticed this a lot. Now, I'm a Ross Chastain fan. Go over to the Hot Pass podcast on YouTube right behind me. Busch Light Peach flag. We're going to get, I haven't been able to find some in my races like that I've been down to in the States. I got to find some when I go to Watkins Glen next week. So remember that. Watkins Glen is coming. Ross Chastain helmet here. Ross Chastain actually drives like really good here. He gets caught up in shit. But he always seems to find his way out front at Atlanta. And some guys drive better on Daytona, Talladega, Atlanta. Different styles. Or it's all super speedways, but doesn't all drive the same. Talladega's really wide. Daytona wide, but like they come through the tri-oval. It's very tight through the tri-oval, and Atlanta's just really, really tight. Ross Chastain, if he could just learn some patience and not to be so aggressive, I think Ross Chastain can win this fucking race. And him not being in the playoffs, I'm really looking at guys like Chris Busch or Ross Chastain, Bubba Wallace, those guys to run well. They don't even have to worry about points anymore. They can just kind of hang out and just make it to the end of the race, and there's a lot of value on them as they're longer shots. But we'll talk about one of the shorter odd guys in a second. But and then it kind of drifts off to like longer odds after this, right? We got Tyler Reddick, Christopher Bell at 20 and 22-1. Not really looking at that. Martin Truex is irrelevant, and then it kind of starts drifting off. Now, let's break down what we got. Talked about Zane Smith plus 1,000 top 10. He's like plus 700 or like plus 500 on other books, or plus 800 I think on Caesars maybe. But it's just value. It's just I took a unit, sprinkled it across Zane Smith at plus 1,000 for a top 10, and Carson Hocevar. I'm taking Carson Hocevar for a decent amount of weekends now. Sorry, I haven't yet, but I'm going to start taking him over the next couple of weekends. He finished 11th at Daytona. That's 11th. He's right there just outside the top 10. One more position, and it was literally by like an ass hair. Okay? Have you ever wiped your ass and seen a little ass hair on the toilet? Or on the toilet paper? That's exactly how far away he was. Brad Keselowski spun and still finishes inside the top 10, and that hurt us. Okay? He's right there. And Carson Hocevar is plus 700 for a top 10. So shouts out to that. I want to be able to get a sprinkle on that, so I took a unit, sprinkled it on both of those guys. Another guy that runs really well here, and I'm thinking about taking him for an outright as well. Ricky Stenhouse kind of just finds his way inside the top 10 here. Definitely on super speedways. We saw that he won the Daytona 500. He's been really good at super speedways, and watching the last couple of races here at Atlanta, he's kind of just been hanging out inside the top 10 a lot. It seems like Ricky and Ross Chastain on Talladega and Atlanta seem to find their way out front. Ricky every time on super speedways. Ross every once in a while at Daytona, but more at Talladega and Atlanta. And I'm going to take those guys with some value. So Ricky Stenhouse plus 300 for a top 10. He's even shorter on other books. There's no real explanation when it comes to super speedways on what you're feeling. You're just throwing darts. As everybody would say on the NASCAR betting preview show, the NASCAR gambling podcast is we're throwing darts and hoping one'll stick, right? You hope to hit that bullseye. Now, the outright picks, I talked about Austin Cindric. I might take him at 22-1. I think Ricky Stenhouse is sitting at 55-1 on some books. I might just take a little sprinkle on that as well. But the guys I feel the most confident on. Oh, actually, I forgot about another top 10 that I just took before I came on here. So let me back up for a second. Bubba Wallace plus 220 for a top 10 is absolutely outrageous. What, the guy didn't make the playoffs and all of a sudden Bet365 is going to disrespect him like that? I thank you for the value. Finished fourth here on Super Speedway, on that Atlanta Super Speedway, and is known for being really good at super speedways. And I just talked about that he's not in the playoffs, so he doesn't have to worry about points now. He can just kind of hang out and survive, right? Because Bubba just seems to be able to get caught up in fucking everything. I'm wearing a Bubba Wallace hat right now, and it fucking hurts me to even talk about it. But Bubba plus 220, where he's like plus 100 on other books, that is value. I put a whole unit on it. I usually don't do that on super speedways. But Bubba, for the love of God, please get it done. So let's go to the outrights. Value everywhere. Bubba Wallace, 31-1 on FanDuel. He's now been bet down to 26-1, I'm pretty sure, on FanDuel. I would still take, he's 28-1 on Bet365 right now. So I would go over there and take that. The 31-1 was just outrageous. Are you fucking crazy? You guys can see all my unit allocations on the Action Network. Link is in the bio. But we sprinkled half a unit on there. That'll pay out big. Bubba finishing fourth, watching that 3-wide finish. If they all crash each other, Bubba just scoots on through and could win. He's right there. I'm just waiting for it to hit again. I mean, he's good at Talladega. He's not the best at Daytona. But he always just seems to find his way up there. Now he doesn't have to worry about points. That's my point on that. I only realized I only got 2 outrights. Look at that. Brad Keselowski, 13-1. Now, Brad Keselowski, I think, is available on a boost on Caesar Sportsbook at 15-1. I would take that. I put a full unit on Brad Keselowski to win the race. Brad, great on super speedways. Almost won the last fall race here. And rain came, and he was out front pretty much all day. We saw him at Daytona. Ends up getting a fucking penalty for jumping the restart. Still ends up getting sloshed around. Still finishes inside the top 10. But Brad Keselowski is a super speedway driver. I might even see what I can get the cash out option for Bet Rivers and maybe sprinkle on that 15-1. See if I can put a full unit on that as well. Maybe I'll even add a little bit more on Caesars. I just feel really good about Brad. This is his opportunity. This round of playoffs is not his forte. I mean, he's got Bristol where he's pretty good at, but he's going to be struggling at Watkins Glen next week. He is not good at Watkins Glen. He's not good at road courses. I don't think he cares about road courses, and that's his downfall. So he's going to have, this is his opportunity, his best opportunity by far, being one of the top super speedway drivers. Brad Keselowski, this is your opportunity to get a W, get it done, at least get a lot of fucking points. So look at him to be winning stages. I mean, when it does come out, guys, I'm going to be looking at Ryan Blaney's, Joey Logano's, Brad Keselowski's for stage wins, Austin Cindric's. I would take a unit, sprinkle it across those guys. They will be out front, and they will win either stage 1 or stage 2. They will be there. They are point chasers, especially the Penske cars. So take a note in that. All right, so that is the card. Nothing really on qualifying. I did give out like Chris Buescher over Kyle Busch at plus 135 or whatever on Caesars. It's weird. Atlanta, I would go off Talladega and Daytona qualifying where Toyotas don't usually do the best, but even the Toyotas kind of just qualify just outside the top 10 here, where they're qualifying usually in the 20s with their new car. So I can't trust anybody. Like Chase Elliott and Denny Hamlin are a matchup. Chase Elliott's qualified like almost dead last in the last, at least outside the top 20 in the last 2 races here. So I was thinking about that. It's like, oh, that's a guarantee. And you look at Chase qualifying here and you go, never mind. So there's nothing I really like. Even Joey Logano over Ryan Blaney, I don't want to take that. We don't have any pole winner bets yet. There's nothing out. I think they're scared after the Michael McDowell incident, getting 28-1. So keep an eye out. See if you can get a kind of a bit of a long shot odds. Obviously, we're looking at Ford. Ford is where it's going to be at. So sprinkle on a couple of Fords if you do get those options. Now look at what the odds are. Okay, don't be taking no fucking 5-1 on 6 drivers that are all Ford. I wouldn't be surprised if they fucking did that. They did that at Darlington, and we ended up hitting Bubba Wallace plus 1,600 for the pole. So kiss my butt. Nobody believes in the Bubba boy. But yeah, all right. That has been the Hot Pass podcast. Okay, how about that? I felt like I was riffing tonight, baby. That's 40 minutes done, down, and dusted. Now I got to finish this off and go and do the NASCAR betting preview show. So I appreciate you guys for listening. Any new listeners, shouts out to you, baby. If I could give you a goddamn kiss, I'd give you a big old wet one, huh? How about that? Even if you're a guy. Now, nobody said anything but the lips. Step it back. Whoa. That, some people would say, homosexual. But not here, okay? This is an all-inclusive space is what some people would say, okay? So, whatever the fuck I was just saying, I appreciate you guys for listening. Any new listeners and continuous listeners, shouts out to you guys for listening to the podcast. This is the biggest we've got it so far. Let's continue to grow the community. Hot Pass Podcast on YouTube. Like, share, subscribe to the YouTube. We're going to get that up tomorrow. I got a full day worth of work on Friday. Which is obviously when the podcast comes out. I always say tomorrow because I'm always recording on Thursday. My bad. Hot Pass Podcast, we'll have the YouTube up on Friday afternoon. We don't have any cars on track till Saturday. So that's perfect timing for you guys to be able to go check out what the hell I'm wearing. Band t-shirt, Bubba Wallace hat, boom, face tattoo, shebang. Finger tattoos, shebang. All right? So Hot Pass Podcast on YouTube. Like, share, subscribe to the podcast. Share it with all your friends. Hot Pass Podcast, Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your audio podcast, go to there. Then, and leave a 5-star rating. Don't forget to do that. Stop it right now. Open up your Apple, Spotify, whatever. 5-star rating. Leave a review. Only 5 stars, baby. And then go to @FurlongEric_ on all social media platforms, X/Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. Just came out with a Sam Mayer video. Going to Watkins Glen next week so you guys can see in my stories and my posts of everything that's going on at Watkins Glen. And shout out to my boy Jared. He might be able to hook us up with a little bit of an insider peek at the Watkins Glen International. All right. Hot Pass Podcast, baby. Appreciate you guys showing love. And Atlanta weekend. Make sure to go to @FurlongEric_ on Furlong @FurlongEric_ on Instagram and X. Half an hour before the Xfinity race to be able to see the full betting card. Always Xfinity and trucks are always exclusive to the Friday morning betting show. Also go over to the NASCAR betting preview show and go check out the show that is also going to be coming out tomorrow. The first one of 10 shows. So go also listen to that. And Action Network. Link is in the bio. All Cup Series bets, football bets, everything like that. Let's fucking go. Hot Pass Podcast. We're out. Peace.